Welcome to True Crime After Dark, where we unravel the darkest corners of the human mind. An airport, a crowd of travelers rushing to make their flights, and one man staggering through the terminal, eyes burning, chest tightening, gasping for air. Within minutes, he would be dead. Two women had just walked away laughing, believing they had pulled a silly prank for a viral video. They didn't know the liquid on their hands was one of the deadliest substances ever created. They didn't know their target was the half-brother of the most feared dictator on Earth. This is the story of Kim Jong-nam, the forgotten prince of North Korea, and the two women manipulated into becoming assassins without ever realizing what they had done. Chapter 1. The Forgotten Prince. Kim Jong-nam was born in 1971, the eldest son of Kim Jong-il. For years he lived as North Korea's heir apparent. He attended elite schools in Pyongyang, chauffeured in luxury cars, surrounded by guards. But his father wanted him to see the world. Jong-nam was sent abroad, studying in Switzerland under a false name, learning French, English, and Japanese. Unlike the closed-off existence most North Koreans endured, Jong-nam got a taste of freedom. He liked it. He visited bars, watched Western films, ate foods forbidden back home. He developed a taste for luxury, for gambling, for women. In the late 1990s, he began handling minor state responsibilities, appearing at official functions. For a time, it seemed certain he would inherit power, but Jong-nam wasn't disciplined. He liked independence. He lacked the cold ruthlessness his family considered necessary. Then came the Disneyland scandal. In 2001, Jong-nam tried to sneak into Japan using a false Dominican passport. His excuse? He wanted to take his young son to Tokyo Disneyland. He was caught at Narita Airport. The story made headlines across the globe, embarrassing the North Korean regime. His father was furious. Overnight, Jong-nam's future evaporated. He was banished from Pyongyang, stripped of succession. From then on, Jong-nam lived in exile, mostly in Macau. He spent his days in casinos, expensive hotels, and nightclubs. He gave occasional interviews, openly criticizing his family's brutal rule, something no other Kim dared to do. He called his half-brother, Kim Jong-un, inexperienced. He hinted at reform. It was dangerous talk. Kim Jong-un had already shown a willingness to kill his uncle and purge high-ranking officials. Jong-nam knew he was a marked man, but he underestimated how far his brother would go. Far from the politics of Pyongyang, in a poor town in Indonesia, Siti Aisyah lived a life defined by struggle. Born into poverty, she dreamed of something more, but the opportunities never came. She married young, but the marriage crumbled. By her mid-20s, she was divorced, raising a young son on her own. Her family needed money. Her son needed school fees. She needed a way out. Like many Indonesians, she looked abroad. Malaysia was close, and it offered work. She found a job as a massage therapist in Kuala Lumpur. The pay was meager, the work often humiliating. Still, she sent money home every month, sacrificing her own comfort for her child's future. But loneliness gnawed at her. She lived in cheap boarding houses, far from family, working long hours. Then she met a man who changed everything. He was friendly, charismatic, and offered her quick money for easy acting jobs. The jobs were strange but harmless, or so it seemed. She was told to smear lotion or spray perfume on strangers in public places. It was framed as a prank show, the kind of silly entertainment that had been popular on TV and YouTube. She did it once, then again. Each time she was paid more than she made massaging strangers for hours. The man treated her kindly. He laughed with her, complimented her. Once he even threw her a birthday party complete with cake. For Siti, it felt like she had finally found a community. Someone valued her, someone cared. She had no idea she was being groomed, not for comedy, not for fame, but for murder. Across the sea, in Vietnam, Don Thi Huong carried her own dreams. Born in a rural village, she grew up watching music videos and dramas, imagining herself on stage. She wanted to sing, act, and entertain. She wanted to escape the small-town life. But dreams cost money and opportunities were scarce. She worked odd jobs, scraping together enough to move to Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur was noisy, alive, filled with possibilities, but it was also unforgiving. Rent was high, jobs were temporary, and fame never came. She auditioned for small roles. She recorded music videos that went nowhere. She worked in restaurants, shops, anything that kept her afloat. Then, like Siti, she was approached by men claiming to be connected to entertainment. They told her she could be in prank shows. The pranks were harmless. Wipe oil or cream on someone's face, giggle, and run off. They paid in cash. To Huang, it felt like the first step toward her dream. These men told her she had charisma, that she could be famous, that the world would laugh with her. She believed them. Over time she grew comfortable. She did prank after prank, never realizing she was being conditioned. Each job built her trust in the men who controlled her life. And like Siti, she had no idea her destiny was about to collide with Kim Jong-nam. The two women, Siti Aisha and Don Thi Huang, never met during their early training. That was deliberate. Their handlers kept them apart, making sure each believed she was working in isolation, part of a small team, but never connected to the other. For Siti, the grooming was emotional. Her handler treated her like family. He celebrated her birthdays, told her she was special, and made her feel cared for. He paid her better than her massage clients ever had. He gave her a sense of belonging in a city where she was otherwise alone. For Huang, the grooming was about ambition. She was told she was funny, charismatic, destined to be a star. The men fed her dreams of appearing on TV or online prank shows. They told her she was talented, that these little stunts were practice for something bigger. They paid her just enough to keep her dependent. Each prank was harmless. A spray of water, a smear of baby oil, a dab of cream. The women laughed, and so did the cameramen. Each stunt made them more confident, more willing to do whatever was asked next. It was a perfect manipulation. By the time February 2017 arrived, the women were fully conditioned. They would do as instructed without question. To understand what happened at Kuala Lumpur Airport, you need to understand VX nerve agent. VX is a chemical weapon, developed in the 1950s. It looks like an oily liquid, odorless, tasteless. A single drop on the skin can kill within minutes. That's how powerful it is. Here's what happens when VX enters the body. Normally your muscles contract and relax thanks to a chemical messenger called acetylcholine. After each contraction, an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase breaks it down, letting your muscles rest. VX blocks that enzyme. It's like cutting the brakes on a car. Once your muscles contract, they don't release. Victims experience pinpoint pupils, blurred vision, nausea, sweating, and muscle twitching. Then the lungs seize up. The diaphragm, the muscle that allows you to breathe, locks in place. Victims suffocate as their own body paralyzes. Even if medical help arrives immediately, survival is slim without antidotes like atropine and pralidoxime, and those must be administered within minutes. VX is banned under international law. It is considered a weapon of mass destruction, on par with nuclear bombs, precisely because of how fast and cruel it is. And in February 2017, North Korean operatives placed that weapon in the hands of two unsuspecting women, disguising it as harmless perfume. The stage was set. Kim Jong-nam's routine was well known. He often traveled through Kuala Lumpur on his way to Macau. He liked Malaysia because it was relatively safe, a place where he could blend into the crowds. The North Korean agents gathered their pawns. They told Siti and Huang there would be another prank at the airport. A big one. Cameras would be rolling. Payment would be generous. Each was handed a different liquid. Huang was given a bottle of oily substance, told to smear it quickly across the target's face. Siti was given a lotion-like cream, told to follow up after, to make the prank funnier. Neither knew who the target was. Neither knew what the substances were. Neither suspected they were about to commit an assassination. On the morning of February 13, 2017, Kim Jong-nam walked into Kuala Lumpur International Airport. He looked tired, dressed simply, carrying a small bag. He was traveling alone. His plan was routine: check in, wait for his flight to Macau, and disappear back into the quiet rhythm of exile. But that morning, destiny had other plans. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It was just past 9 a.m. on February 13, 2017. Kuala Lumpur International Airport buzzed with travelers. Families with children, business people with briefcases, tourists with backpacks. The atmosphere was normal, routine, until history took a deadly turn. Kim Jong-nam entered quietly, heading toward the AirAsia self-check-in kiosk. He carried a black backpack and wore a light jacket. To most, he looked like any other traveler, but to the regime in Pyongyang, he was a marked man. Meanwhile, two women positioned themselves nearby. Don Thi Huang stepped forward first. She wore a white shirt with bold black letters spelling LOL. Ironically, the shirt would later become one of the most infamous images of the case. She approached Jong-nam from behind, moving quickly. In one swift motion, she smeared the oily liquid across his face, pressing it into his eyes. Seconds later, Siti Aisha followed. She pressed the cream-like lotion across his cheeks, rubbing it in. To anyone watching, it looked bizarre. Two women attacking a stranger, then running away laughing. The women walked briskly toward the restrooms, giggling nervously as if the job was done. They thought the cameras had caught a prank. But Kim Jong-nam wasn't laughing. At first he blinked rapidly, trying to wipe the substance from his face. Then the burning began. His vision blurred, his chest tightened. He stumbled, disoriented, toward the nearest service counter. Witnesses later recalled him gasping, "They smeared liquid on my face! I can't breathe!" Panic spread. Staff rushed to help him, but within minutes the nerve agent was already inside his system, shutting him down from the inside out. Kim Jong-nam collapsed into a chair, struggling for breath. Sweat poured down his face, his pupils shrank to pinpoints, his hands trembled uncontrollably. Minute by minute VX took control of his body. First 2 minutes, his eyes burned, tearing uncontrollably. He grew dizzy, his balance faltering. 5 minutes, his vision blurred, his chest felt like it was tightening in a vice. Muscles in his face began to twitch. 10 minutes, his diaphragm, the muscle that allows the lungs to expand, started to seize. He tried to gulp air but couldn't fill his lungs. 15 minutes, convulsions shook his body. He collapsed onto the counter, then slid toward the floor. 20 minutes, his body began to shut down completely. By the time paramedics arrived, he was barely conscious. Airport staff tried desperately to help. They carried him to the airport clinic, but there was little anyone could do. VX works too fast. Without the antidotes, and without knowing what substance had been used, medical staff were powerless. By the time he reached the ambulance, his breathing had stopped. Within the hour, Kim Jong-nam was pronounced dead. What shocked the world wasn't only the use of VX, but the audacity of the attack. A weapon of mass destruction had been unleashed in a crowded airport, with no regard for the hundreds of people nearby. As chaos unfolded around Kim Jong-nam, Siti Aisha began to feel strange. At first it was just a tingling in her fingers, then nausea. Her skin burned, her stomach twisted. She stumbled toward the bathroom, washing her hands frantically, but the sensation didn't go away. Her handler had told her it was perfume. She had believed it. But now, as dizziness overcame her, she realized something wasn't right. VX nerve agent had seeped into her pores. On its own, the lotion wasn't lethal, but she had rubbed it directly after Huang's oily substance. The combination on Jong-nam's face created a perfect storm of death. And now, residue clung to her skin. Siti looked for her handler, expecting him to appear with payment and reassurance. But he was gone. Huang too wandered the airport in confusion. She had been told this was just a prank. She checked her phone, waiting for instructions, but her messages went unanswered. Hours passed. Neither woman found the men who had hired them. Instead, they were left alone in Kuala Lumpur, nervous, sick, and increasingly afraid. They eventually left the airport and checked into cheap hotels. Both waited for word, for money, for anything that might explain what had happened. But silence followed. The truth was chilling. The North Korean agents had already boarded planes out of Malaysia, vanishing into safety. The women were abandoned, disposable pawns in a geopolitical assassination. When Siti Aisha and Don Thi Huang left Kuala Lumpur International Airport after the prank, both expected the same thing. A quick payday and laughter from their handlers. That was the pattern. Do the stunt, get cash, move on. But this time, there was only silence. Siti checked her phone repeatedly, waiting for a text. Nothing. Huang sat in her hotel room, calling numbers she'd been given. No one answered. For hours they lingered, confused. Had the prank gone wrong? Had the producers left without telling them? Were they being tested? Meanwhile, news of Kim Jong-nam's collapse was already spreading. Within minutes of his death, photos and videos leaked online. The world was waking up to the story that the half-brother of North Korea's dictator had been assassinated in Malaysia. By nightfall, security footage from the airport was already in investigators' hands. The cameras showed everything. 2 women rushing at Jong-nam, pressing liquids onto his face and walking away. Their faces were clear, their clothing unforgettable. While the women sat in cheap hotels waiting for handlers who would never return, police were already hunting them. The North Korean agents, the true masterminds, had boarded flights out of the country the same day, leaving their pawns behind. The trap had been sprung, and the women were left to take the fall. On February 15th, just 2 days after the assassination, police moved in. First, they found Siti Aisha. She had returned to the airport, still hoping to meet her handler. Instead, plainclothes officers closed in around her. She was confused, frightened. When they told her she was under arrest for murder, she cried out, "It was just a prank, I didn't know." Hours later, police tracked down Don Thi Huang in her hotel. She too was shocked. She insisted she thought it was all a comedy stunt. She begged them to call the men who hired her. But those men no longer existed in Malaysia. Both women were interrogated for hours. They told the same story. Prank shows, easy money, no knowledge of who the man was. They described the jobs they had done before, the practice runs, the promises of fame. Malaysian investigators weren't sure what to believe. The evidence was damning. Security footage showed them smearing liquids on Jong-nam's face. But their fear and confusion seemed genuine. Could two ordinary women really have known they were handling VX nerve agent? The truth lay somewhere in between. They were guilty, but guilty of ignorance, not conspiracy. They had been used, betrayed, and discarded. The trial began in October 2017. The courtroom was packed with reporters from around the globe. The case had become an international sensation. Part murder trial, part spy drama. The prosecution painted the women as willing participants. The defense argued they were pawns in a larger game. Evidence of their earlier prank videos was shown. Experts explained how VX worked, how the substances they carried separately were harmless, but deadly when combined. The women's lawyers highlighted the handlers, the men who had promised fame, who had disappeared the same day Jong-nam died. Malaysian authorities even named 4 North Korean suspects, but they were gone, safe in Pyongyang, beyond the reach of justice. The trial dragged on for months. In the meantime, diplomatic tensions exploded. Malaysia and North Korea expelled each other's ambassadors. Jong-nam's body became the center of a standoff, with North Korea demanding it be returned. Public opinion shifted. The world began to see the women not as assassins, but as victims of manipulation. They were poor, desperate, easily exploited. They hadn't even known their target was Kim Jong-nam. In March 2019, charges against Siti Aisyah were suddenly dropped. She walked free, returning home to Indonesia to hugs, tears, and relief. In May 2019, Don Thi Huang pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of causing hurt by dangerous means. She was sentenced to time served and released shortly after, flying home to Vietnam to a hero's welcome. The 2 women, once accused of murder, were free. Their lives would never be the same, scarred by betrayal, haunted by their role in a death they never intended. And Kim Jong-nam? His death became a symbol, not only of North Korea's ruthlessness, but of how far the regime would go to silence even family. A chemical weapon had been unleashed in broad daylight in a crowded airport just to prove a point: no one is safe. 2 women believed they were playing a prank. A man believed exile kept him safe. Both beliefs were deadly illusions. On that February morning in Kuala Lumpur, laughter turned to panic, a prank turned to poison, and 2 strangers became pawns in one of the most shocking assassinations of the 21st century. This is the story of Kim Jong-nam's death. Not just a murder. A message written in nerve agent, carried out by hands that never knew what they held. The assassination of Kim Jong-nam was not just the story of one man, it was a window into the dangers of unchecked power. In countries ruled by fear, questions are dangerous, dissent is fatal, even family is not safe. Kim Jong-nam's death showed us what can happen when a regime values control over life. A brother killed, not in secret, but in the open. A warning to the world written in poison. But it is also a story of 2 women. Siti Aisyah and Don Thi Huang. Poor, ambitious, vulnerable, used, betrayed, abandoned. They remind us that in places where freedom is scarce, manipulation thrives. That poverty and desperation can turn dreams into weapons. So what can we take from this story? That truth matters. That questions matter. That silence is dangerous. We must always ask, who benefits? Who holds the power? And what is being hidden in the shadows? Kim Jong-nam's death was a tragedy. But it is also a warning that some governments will go to any length to protect themselves. And that freedom, the freedom to speak, to question, to live without fear, is something we must never take for granted. Let this story be more than just another true crime. Let it be a reminder to stay vigilant, to value truth, and to never stop asking questions. Thank you for watching another True Crime After Dark story. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share where in the world you're joining us from.